Welcome to the Total Soccer Show and the glorious return of the Weekend Review. The Premier League is back, and what have we learned? Well, if you face Man City, you might get burned. With Rangers and Cherky, the citizens were racing. But just don't mention the 115 charges they're still facing. The big match saw Man United attacking with glee, but they couldn't get a point against Set Piece FC. Arsenal's keeper provided a ray of light, and with a decent shot stopper for United, it might have been a fair fight. Bournemouth had high hopes when they put Liverpool on the ropes, but Chiesa and Salah struck late to fulfil the usual defending champion tropes. Sunderland had a great start they could take to the bank, and so did Tottenham under new coach Thomas Frank. And Newcastle failed to score and took it on the chin. If only they had a great striker to bang a few goals in. Elsewhere, Harry Kane helped Bayern earn a Super Cup crown, and Lamine Yamal did what Lamine Yamal does. He scored from downtown. My name's Ryan Bailey. Joining me today, Taylor Rocco. Hello, Taylor. How are you?
I am doing very well, my friend. I'm feeling optimistic about very few of my predictions, but doing well all the same because the Premier League is back.
It is indeed, and you and your Man United, we've got lots to talk about. We're going to get to them first, I think, but I think...
It's a very optimistic 1-0 loss. There we go.
Yeah, there we go. You've proven you can beat anybody except the team you didn't beat.
Just that little thing.
Yeah.
Just that little thing. Don't worry about that little guy. It's fine.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Joe Lowry, hello, how are you?
I am great. I am happy the Premier League is back. I'm far more happy that Ryan Bailey's rhyming introductions are back in full force. Ryan, that was delightful, truly. I think I've said this before, but when I travel places and I'm talking about the show or people, recognize me or whatever it is, that happens infrequently because we are largely an audio medium, and even still, when people come up and talk to me about the show, they're like, hey, man, those rhyming introductions from Ryan are the best. Do you feel at home doing any other thing on the show more than that? Like, is that the thing that you feel like is your thing? This is a genuine question. Or is there like another thing, the hosting, the transitioning from one thing to the next, throwing to the ad breaks,
all the international football.
Right. Yeah. I mean, talking about the 90s, like what is it, Ryan? Is that your thing, like that you treasure most on the show?
I think it's that, or interrupting Graham with really bad jokes while he's trying to make a salient point.
Good. Both excellent tasks.
Yeah. I think that's probably it. Graham Ruffin, hello, how are you?
I'm very well. Ryan Bailey, how's dog life treating you? That's DOG life, not DAWG life. Although you're loving both.
Yeah, they're both going great. Thank you for asking. Yes. Over the weekend, I obtained Puppy. Puppy is good. Love Puppy very much.
On a long-term contract.
Is someone pointing a weapon at you off camera?
Say it again.
The puppy.
Had to clean up after Puppy minutes before joining call. That has been a theme over the past 24 hours or so. But hey, we'll all get there. It's all good. No,
Is it going to break into your recording room like the Roomba did that one time?
Riding on the Roomba. They're both going to come in. That's what I hope.
It's weird because Ryan also named his dog Roomba. So it's a little confusing, but double Roomba in the Bailey household.
Yeah, Roomba squared. That's how we do it around here. Only one of them cleans and one of them does quite the opposite, as what I'm learning so far, Joe. But there we go. Yeah, dog life. I am loving it. It's our first dog. So any tips, listener, let me know. Yeah, that's the main one, I suppose, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good family motto. There we go. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show, by the way, is where you'll get our bonus coverage. We've got Weekend Review Extra coming to the feed. All the weekend extra goodness we couldn't fit in this episode goes right there. Also, we've got bonus video content and access to our Discord server. All the cool kids are hanging out there. And maybe I'll put some dog pictures in there if that's your kind of thing as well. Probably not, though. Feel self-indulgent of me. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. Bonus content can be found there. All right, let's get to our weekend review, shall we? We'll start off in the Premier League. Why don't we start off at Old Trafford? Man United 0, Arsenal 1. Mr. Calafiore nodding in the corner. United's goalkeeper, probably not his finest moment there. Seemed to be some holding and blocking. Maybe we can have a chat about that incident very shortly. But Taylor, I would definitely not be discouraged if I were a Man United fan from this performance. Basically, only conceding from one particular moment of weakness, the aforementioned, which is, I guess, a script we've seen before with this team, right? And my question for you is, did the right team win? Arsenal managing 9 shots to United's 22. Bukayo Saka, his quote after the game: "We were not up to our usual standards, the basics, sloppy giveaways. Our decision-making was not great, and that cost us and gave United a lot of momentum. We did not get punished for it, but we cannot do it every game." It seemed to me, and I might be wrong, that United were the livelier, and perhaps if you didn't know the scoreline, you thought they might have taken this one.
Yeah, I'll take that. That's fine with me. Have you answered the question so I don't have to? I tend to try to be a person who says the result was the result, and that's the way it should have ended up. So I think it's a credit to Arsenal that they get the win, that they take their chance. They are very much helped by Altay Bayındır flapping at that cross coming in. I know Arsenal are very good on set pieces. I'm not sure I'm going to give them full credit for that one. Maybe it was an intentional Olympico that Calafiore then gets on the end of. I think a lot of that has to do with the goalkeeper not really being confident, getting into a kind of physical altercation instead of coming and claiming a cross that he probably should have claimed. But after that, it did feel like Manchester United were the more dominant attacking team. Arsenal have some opportunities, don't get me wrong. But I think Manchester United had good individual moments. I thought they had good team moments in the way they moved the ball into good attacking spaces. I can't tell if that is entirely because I'm a Manchester United fan and because the bar is so low, because they've been so dull for so long, that in this game, I thought there was a bit of back and forth. I thought it was pretty engaging. I thought this game would have multiple goals in it. Obviously, it did not in the end. I think if you're an Arsenal supporter, you've got to take heart that you didn't play a particularly good game and you still get 3 points against a team that I think will be better. And I think for Manchester United supporters, you take heart that you don't have one of your key summer signings starting, but you have 2 of them starting, and they looked excellent. I thought the back line looked much stronger. I thought it was a better team performance overall.
Yeah, I think that level of expectation there, Taylor, that you mentioned is key for assessing both teams' performances, because Arsenal, I thought, were really underwhelming in an attacking sense in this game. Obviously, the defensive solidity was there at times. I mean, I thought William Saliba played on the edge in moments in this game. Maybe wasn't his usual self to start the season. But obviously they bend but don't break in this game. But as an attacking team, I thought a lot of their creative play and attacking play was pretty laboured. I thought Gyökeres was disappointing. We can come on to that a little bit later, I presume. And then for Manchester United, I thought the principles of the performance were a lot better than last season. I thought they were more physical, more muscular when coming forward with the ball. They were energetic. They closed down better. They were quicker to get into central midfield. I thought Bayındır, for all his faults, of course, one of which cost Manchester United the game with that mistake from the corner kick, I thought his distribution was actually pretty decent in punching balls into Cunha and Mbeumo and Fernandes in the middle. And I thought with Cunha and Mbeumo in particular, just having more physical, muscular players allowed Manchester United to have those moments where Cunha in particular was getting turned and then driving through the middle. We obviously had that one run where he has the chance and bursts all the way through. But that is a big difference for Manchester United, to have those players that can absorb those passes and get on the turn. So that's the positive stuff for Manchester United. At the same time, when they did get into the final third, I thought it was quite clumsy. I thought it was lacking in execution. And that was a common theme across the Premier League this weekend. Obviously, these teams are still getting going and getting up to speed. So that rustiness might be ironed out over the next few games. But yeah, it was better from Manchester United without thinking this team has fixed all the problems that we saw so glaringly last season.
Yeah, the way that I was thinking about Manchester United in this game, even though they ended up with the majority of possession because Arsenal go ahead so early and then they Arsenal'd game stated their way through the rest of this game, the thing I was thinking about for Manchester United as I watched this match was that there are the makings of a really dangerous transition team in here. That's the thing that kept popping up, because this is not a huge surprise for this group, but Manchester United's best moments in this match came on the break. And Cunha was at the heart of so many of those moments. Graham, you mentioned one of them already. The 2 that I clocked and actually wrote down because they were so good, 33rd minute, it's a one-man counter from Cunha where he's just mazing through the Arsenal backline. Then the 69th minute, he's playing left wing at this point because Šeško's come on the field to play the number 9 role, because Cunha starts at the 9, Mount to his left, and Mbeumo to his right in a 3-4-3 in this game. Šeško comes on the field, and Cunha shifts wider to the left in that kind of left half space. And he just turns Ben White as Manchester United are breaking through Arsenal's press and creates a shot at the other end. Like, they were something out of pretty low quality moments, right? Like, these moments that don't often turn into high quality chances, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. And Cunha orchestrated some of those moments and really created something from little. And I thought that was really impressive. And Mbeumo, too, had some nice moments, although I did think Cunha was a bit better overall on the day. And Šeško, when he comes on the field, he only plays the last 30 minutes or so of this game. You could see some of what he brings. He absolutely dominates Gabriel and hold-up around the 87th minute. I don't know if any of you guys remember that sequence. It's like Šeško it's him doing a lot of the stuff that we talked about when we were going through the transfer saga of this guy is he's elite physically, right? He is so difficult to stop in those 1v1 moments. And Gabriel is not the star of this Arsenal backline. That's Saliba. But still, it is a difficult test when you're going up against an Arsenal team that is so physically strong. for Manchester United to show those things. Everything you said, Graham, about the final third stuff is still true, right? When Arsenal were sitting deeper, I was not impressed by Manchester United. I think there is a lot of work to do there, and I don't know, frankly, if they have the personnel still to do that work. Like, that is still a big TBD, and I probably lean more skeptical than not on that. But in this game, I do think Manchester United did a lot of things well, and I think they deserve credit for that, even if, I think you can make a pretty strong argument that Arsenal deserved something from this game.
Was there particular bluntness you all saw that made you concerned about that Manchester United attack? Was it like the kind of slammed crosses from near angles to nobody? Was it shots from distance? Was it just a lack of numbers in the box? Was there anything?
Shots from distance. That's my VSP.
I mean, all of the above, to be honest. And I also saw at times in this game a flaw in the setup, because at least twice Dalot got into the box, looked up, and nobody was in the middle for him. And I just think that is surely some form of consequence of having, as I see it, sorry to be like so rudimentary, so reductive, but having one fewer attacker on the pitch than you would have in like a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1. Because if Mbeumo, and it was Mbeumo in those moments, if he's playing Dalot in on the overlap, then he's not going to have time to get into the box. You've got two players, Cunha and Mount, attacking that cross, because it's a lot to ask the wing-back on the other side to get into the box in that moment, although that does happen on occasion. And then in this game, one of them, Mason Mount, doesn't want to do that. He's not a number 9 in that sense. Now, over time, maybe by the next game, that's Benjamin Sesko, and there's a difference there. And actually, as the game went on, it swung to the other extreme with Manchester United, where I felt like they had too many players in the box, and it was a little bit too congested, and the spacing was a little bit weird. But yeah, that's kind of what I meant by the execution. It just felt like the chemistry was off a little bit, some sloppy touches. I saw Michael Cox posting about this, which is enough vindication for me to repeat it. The ball in the Premier League this weekend seemed to be very bouncy. I don't know what was going on there. Like, it wasn't just in this game either. The ball was bouncing off players, bouncing high on the pitch. I don't know what that was about, but anyway, it was a little bit imprecise from United across the board.
Maybe it was just the air pressure in every single stadium.
Maybe
that's it. Yeah. Taylor, I am quite interested in Man United and what I am calling their horseshoe of doom. So I'm sort of the front players and the wing backs. Sesko, Mbeumo, Cunha.
Is this different than a horseshoe of sadness that we've talked about previously?
I think it's the other way around. It's the horseshoe of opportunity.
Okay.
So your front three, Diallo and Dorgu, that sort of attacking horseshoe, if you will. I think if they are all regulars, they all get proper regular 90 minutes together, they're going to have a chemistry which is going to be pretty formidable, is my thought and prediction there.
Okay. I'll take that. I'd be fine with that. I think Graham is right, though. There were moments when they don't have numbers in the box, and then there's moments when they have too many numbers in the box. There's moments when Mason Mount is trying to drop in and kind of combine with Bruno, which can lead to really, really good through balls and really good direct passes. But then you have, again, one fewer attacker involved in the attack because they're now 40 yards behind the run of play. And it does just lead to some like incongruous situations that have to be ironed out. I think with a bit more chemistry, with a bit more fluidity, and probably against an opponent that is an Arsenal, maybe it looks a little bit more comprehensive in the approach. I also think, I'll say to their credit, I thought Arsenal dark arts this game pretty well. I don't think that this was the best performance from them. We are doing the thing of talking about the team that lost more than the team that won, but I kind of struggle to say a lot of positive things about Arsenal, not because I thought they were bad necessarily, just because I didn't think that we could learn a ton about them from this game, other than that Calafiore looked a little bit isolated at times, has to concede the free kick for the yellow in the first half, and maybe that's like a formational issue. I'm not entirely sure, but I will say that I think they had the most fouls, like third most fouls they've had in like 10 years or something like that. I thought they did a good job of disrupting Bayindir when he wanted to play quick after collecting a set piece or a cross or whatever. I think they delayed restarts. I thought they fouled a lot. I thought they got physical. I thought they knocked Manchester United players around and kind of disrupted their rhythm when they needed to. So in that way, I think Arsenal were able to rise to the occasion and keep the clean sheet. And that is potentially to their credit. It just then needs to be seen if they can kind of be the Arsenal team that we expect them to be and put 3 and 4 goals past some opposition.
When people talk about Arteta leaning into peak Jose Mourinho ball, this is what they're talking about: a set piece goal, some of the dark arts, game management, and they did a lot of those things. They did a lot of those things well. I'll repeat what I said at the top of the segment. I thought it was underwhelming in an attacking sense. Martinelli and even Saka just felt like played somewhat within themselves in this game, and then Gyökeres, obviously the big signing that so many people have high expectations for. if I'm being kind, I'd say he looked nervy and rusty. I thought some of his runs were effective. Gave Arsenal a different. We're coming on to that. He definitely gave Arsenal a different dimension compared to what they had last season, with that ability to run in behind. If I'm being harsh, and I stress this is being harsh, I'd say in this game he didn't look up to the standard. Yeah. He will improve, but some of the moments I thought were really quite poor. There was one moment in particular where he did make a good run, and he makes this powerful run into space. But just as he's bearing down on goal, he sort of stepped on the ball, and the chance disappeared. And there was another moment, or two other moments, I think, where he plays a pretty simple crossfield pass, like straight out of play, and puts Arsenal under pressure. So slightly concerning, but Arsenal as a whole as an attacking outfit weren't great. So I don't pin that entirely on him, and I expect he will improve as games come.
Yeah, of the two real new signings in this Arsenal team that I was excited to watch, Zubimendi was by far the more interesting to watch in this game. I think was the better player for them at the base of midfield. It looks to me like he is such a clear upgrade over Thomas Partey in that deep line midfield role, where he has the defensive timing and instincts, but is also really silky smooth on the ball. And I thought it was interesting in build-up. This is just sort of a bookmark for future Arsenal games. He was often the one moving out of that deep line role to let Odegaard or Rice drop into that space. And I don't know if that was based off of the Man United press in this game, or if that's something we're going to see more often. But a flexible player who adds mobility and quality, I think, in every phase. So I like Zubimendi. Gyökeres was invisible in moments in this game. I'm willing to chalk a lot of that up. Graham, you have laid out some of the on-ball stuff that was not ideal. But I'm willing to chalk a lot of Gyökeres' struggles and inactivity up to the fact that this is Arsenal's attack. Right, this is a team that still needs to do something in this transfer window, or that Mikel Arteta needs to get something more out of this group. Right, ideally both of those things. But it is difficult when you are as isolated as he was in this game to have a profound impact. All that said, things can be two things. It was a good day yesterday for the Kai Havertz will play more minutes and score more goals than Gyökeres take that we've been talking about on this show, and that others have as well. Because I thought when Havertz came on the field, this is not a surprise, but everything moved so much quicker for Arsenal on the ball, because you basically are playing with one more attacking midfielder in that team, and Havertz can do a job of then going and being that nine that crashes the near post, or at least it makes a direct run towards goal, even if it's the accent run. So that Kai Havertz had a clearly larger impact in this game. How the 9 rotation works out is something to watch.
Taylor, final question on this game. Do we think that either or both teams need to do a bit more business before the window closes? I presume for Man United, maybe I want to look at the goalkeeping position, for example.
I would have said yes. Graham makes a good point about the distribution. I think...
Just to jump in there, do you know who's really good at that stuff as well? Andre Onana. That's what he did for Inter Milan. So, just saying.
Which thing? The distribution or the flapping it crosses?
Nice.
Both. But I was meaning the kind of punched passes into central midfield. Because that was the most frustrating thing with Onana when Ten Hag signed him, was he did that for about 2 games and then completely abandoned it. So.
Yeah. I mean, so, I felt like that was my first take. As soon as that ball went in the back of the net, I thought, okay, so maybe the Donnarumma links weren't nonsense. However, I think if you want a goalkeeper who's going to theoretically punch the ball well, but more so distribute well and play into feet, and I thought Bayern did that pretty well on occasion. I don't know if that's going to fix things. I think Joe is correct in a lot of what he's been saying, that it's the midfield that probably needs one more person to help carry the ball forward, but also do some of the defensive work. Casemiro, I thought, was fine, but I don't think he's going to be fine over the course of a season. We can't expect him to play 38 games, but he also has moments where he goes for sort of like in-step reverse passes that he doesn't need to try to go for it and gives the ball right to Arsenal. He has moments where he maybe just takes a second or two too long, and I think that's because he doesn't have the burst of pace, the speed to kind of evade a challenge and then play a pass. So I think maybe that's where Manchester United might want to look. And then, truthfully, I haven't really gone in with Graham and Joe on the criticisms of Arsenal, specifically on the left side of their attack. After they had about 3 passes go straight out of bounds from that side, and after they looked disjointed repeatedly, I'm not sure one player is going to kind of come in and make them look more fluid right away. But I do think maybe there is a little bit more variety needed in that attack. Maybe you do want one more player who could come in, maybe somebody who could bang in a free kick and then have it disallowed.
Yeah.
Just saying. So yes, I think both teams would like to do more business. I think both teams are in a position where they need to sell to buy. So it requires them to be able to kind of move on some people. Manchester United don't seem like they're going to do that, except for maybe Garnacho. The latest reporting I saw is that Jadon Sancho has once again rejected a move to a club and is holding out for, I guess, Barcelona as well. It worked out
You
for
just
Rashford.
got bomb squatted.
Right?
Congrats.
I know, man. So Garnacho, they're waiting on an offer from Chelsea. I think if he were to go, that does free up some funds to maybe go out and look for a midfielder. They have ended the Baleba pursuit, such as it was. They're not going to prize him away from Brighton. So maybe they keep their powder dry for January or next summer. Maybe they will go for somebody, but I think for both teams it requires some sales first.
There we go. All right, my very small sample size hot take from this weekend in this game, I suppose. Man United looking a lot better. Arsenal have got Liverpool, Man City to catch up with, frankly.
But I mean, this is what Arsenal did last season, right? I honestly don't think with either team we learned a huge amount about them, because even with Manchester United, this stuff is easy. That's not quite correct. They've got this in them. Like, we've seen this sort of performance against better teams last season. They've got Fulham, then Burnley in the next 2 games. Come back to me after those 2 games and we'll see whether they have the same intensity against those opponents. So I think it's kind of par for the course for both teams. They will need to improve.
We will come back to you after those games, Graham. Right
Thanks.
here on the Weekend Review. That's kind of what we do round these parts. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at the rest of the Premier League. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to the Weekend Review. Let's wind ourselves all the way back to Friday and the opening game of the Premier League season. Liverpool 4, Bournemouth 2. Liverpool striking twice late on after blowing their initial 2-goal lead to get another one, I suppose. Emotional scenes at the start of this game, obviously with tributes to Diogo Jota and his brother Andre. A very emotional figure, Mo Salah cut in this game, not just at the beginning but the end as well. Seemed to have a lot of tears in his eyes. Hugo Ekitike opening the scoring, then Gakpo, Chiesa and Salah getting in the scorings too. Semenyo for Bournemouth getting the brace here, but the game unfortunately overshadowed by Semenyo reporting that he'd been racially abused by a member of the crowd. That member of the crowd was arrested. I think we'll have more on that when we have it. But Semenyo had with a comment on Instagram, on social media, saying, giving his appreciation for the support he received in that moment. Last night at Anfield will stay with me forever, not because of one person's words, but because how the entire football family stood together. So that was I suppose, a moment of positivity from an unfortunate event, Graham, from that game. But your thoughts on the opening game?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it goes without saying that the racist abuse received by Semenyo was a real dampener. Unfortunately, a reflection, I think, of the societal landscape in the UK at the moment, which is becoming increasingly concerning all the time. And just to kind of address the other non-footballing thing before we dive into the game itself, I thought the Salah moment at the end was really affecting and showed, I think it was a sign of, grief isn't linear, and so I think in football we sometimes fall into this trap of like, oh well, we're playing football now, everything will be fine. And I said that I previewed Liverpool before the start of the season, and I said I don't think we can discount how much of an impact that might have on these players. So for Salah to stand after the game has been won, all that drama, and to see him so emotional, I thought was really really affecting. And the game itself was great. It was exactly what you want from an opening match of the season. Loads of goals, plenty of chaos, a bit of jeopardy with Bournemouth fighting back from 2-0 down. I thought they were good as well, very good at what they do. And then the late drama with the Chiesa goal in particular. So, great vibes. I think Liverpool are going to be great for the neutral to watch this season because they have so much attacking quality. Ekitike looks the business. And then defensively, they look really open. And I think Ryan Gravenberch coming back into that midfield will make a difference. I think Arne Slot after the game pointed out that Alexis McAllister has only been back in training for 2 to 3 weeks as well. So maybe when he gets up to speed, there'll be a bit more protection. But I think Liverpool are going to score loads of goals and they may concede loads of goals. And for us, that's great.
And Sly kept talking about that after the game because Jamie Carragher was sort of pressing him on how open Liverpool were in this game, which I appreciated, right? Because that's a huge talking point from the Community Shield, which everyone watched in great detail, and this game as well. Like these are big themes for Liverpool right now. And the things that Slot talked about were Gravenberch not being available and how important he is to that double pivot deeper down the field, McAllister's lack of fitness that will improve. He talked some about the positioning of the outside backs, which I want to get to shortly. But he also just said, we're going to be fun. We're going to be fun. Like, if you want to watch a team that's going to sit back deeper in their third, like, we're not the team for you. That's a paraphrase, but that's effectively what he was getting at. And I really appreciated the openness, tactically, I suppose, but also just with his words from Arne Slot. I want to start with the good for Liverpool, and then maybe if Ryan is gracious, he'll come back to me very briefly on the bad. Ekitike looks. Thank you. For folks not watching, Ryan graciously sort of waved me on. Ekitike looks awesome. so far. And the goal that he scores is part fortune and part skill, right? You sort of make your own luck. But he also...
Suarez.
Yeah, right. He kind of bumbles his way through the Bournemouth back line, and it's effective. But before that, and several other times in this game, you see Ekitike dropping to link play, and you also see some really savvy movement. And I love his run into the seam that Alexis McAllister could then play him through, and then it booms its way through, and Ekitike goes and scores. But I really like what I've seen from Ekitike to the point where I am wondering, and it was raised on the NBC broadcast of this game, is there a world in which Ekitike plays well enough that the Isak thing goes away? And I think the answer to that question is yes, potentially. I mean, obviously I'm not a KFC employee, so I don't know for sure. But, I mean, I think Ekitike was excellent in this game. And there was a lot to like about Liverpool's attack overall. And this was an incredibly, attack-tilted sort of team. When you look at the personnel, Szoboszlai deeper in midfield next to McAllister, Liverpool are going to be crazy fun this year. They were really fun in this game. And Bournemouth, for their part, I thought were quite impressive. Semenyo was amazing in this game. Their ability to transition from defense to attack. This game was level at 2-2, like in the second half. This game did not seem like an easy Liverpool win at almost any point in the match. So credit to Bournemouth for what they accomplished in this game, especially in transition. They weathered a good chunk of the storm, but I think we're seeing some of that lack of defensive quality that they lost over the summer window. But man, this game was wild, and I gotta say, I'm looking forward to watching a lot more of both of these teams this year.
There you go. Graham, you're a fantasy Premier League man. Did you draft Florian Wirtz? And if so, how you feeling about that after this?
I drafted Hugo Ekitike and made him my captain.
Nice.
So feeling pretty good about that. No, I didn't. Did I have Wirtz? Wirtz, I'm not entirely sure. No, I did. I had Wirtz as well. He grew into the game over the course of the 90 minutes. I thought there were some nice moments. You can see him dropping into space. That's his whole game. Still feels like there's there's going to be a period of adaptation for him in this Liverpool team. I agree with Joe. Ekitike has been the eye-catching new signing so far. There were moments in this game where, and I wasn't the only one to make this observation, it was a common observation, but it was kind of unavoidable. The way he was dropping deep and then spinning in behind or carrying the ball, very Fernando Torres-esque when he first joined Liverpool and was like this electrifying presence on the pitch that just elevated their attack by another level. So if he lives up to that billing and not the Chelsea Fernando Torres billing, then he'll be doing okay at Anfield.
Yeah, and a lot of it is tilted to the attack right now. Like the fun takeaways on the attack. The concern for Liverpool is how open they are. And Slot talked about, besides the personnel stuff at the base of midfield, he also talked about some of the rest defense stuff, right? Like how Liverpool are structured when they lose the ball. And he's happy for them to push numbers forward, but we've talked about this as well. When it is Kerkez at left back and Frimpong at right back, and you've got an aggressively attack-oriented midfield group, you're going to be open the other way. And it's two games in Liverpool's season so far across competitions where they have been very, very open in transition. The second goal that Bournemouth scored, I think, is the best example of this. Oh. Both fullbacks are forward. It's Gomez at this point, right? There was sort of a rotating cast at right back in this game. It was Endo after it was Frimpong, and it was Gomez after it was Endo. It's Endo and Robertson, so subs at both fullback spots, which I think is telling of how much work was on those players. Subs at both fullback spots, and those players are forward. So Bournemouth, after they turn the ball over, sprint forward, and it's a 4-on-3 break to Bournemouth. That's a big no-no for any coach on the planet, and especially coaches of elite teams that want to have some semblance of control on games. Liverpool did not have control of this game for stretches of it, and that is something that I think Slot will work to correct, of course, on the personnel side. But I am really curious about the personnel that they brought in those wide areas, how Slot kind of tinkers with things to establish better structures when they lose the ball. Maybe that's losing the ball in better spots. Maybe that is positioning those players in different ways when they lose the ball. But if you're looking for something to watch from Liverpool that is like tactically nerdy and also will have a huge impact on their games defensively, watch where the fullbacks are positioned and how those players relate to the center mids going forward. Because I think there's a real world, as we talked about in the preseason, there's a real world in which that stuff is hugely impactful for Liverpool moving forward.
There we go. Fun stuff from Liverpool, off to a winning start, as were, Taylor, Manchester City with their 4-0 win over Wolves. Erling Haaland with a brace, and the new boys, Reinders and Cherky, getting on the score sheet as well. Tiani Reinders with a very good debut here, a goal and an assist. They've got their new box-to-box man, it seems, and probably, Taylor, best value signing in the season. Was he 40 million or something? He was quite cheap.
I don't know, man. They do smart stuff, that Manchester City team, aside from the 115 charges you mentioned, which I will mention every single time I mention them, because we should. But they looked excellent in this game. And to be fair, Wolves did not look really poor for the first 30 minutes or so. Wolves looked like they had a very strong defensive game plan. They knew how they wanted to defend. They knew how they wanted to transition to attack. And this is a game that I think City would have really struggled with last year. I think they would have struggled to create clear ideas, clear opportunities. I think they would have tried a lot of the same stuff over and over and over again. And maybe they would have found breakthrough, but maybe they would have found frustration. And so it's extremely to their credit that I think they try different things. They try quick combination passes. They try individual dribbles. They try a few shots from distance. They try some crosses. And a lot of it ends up working in a really comprehensively strong performance from Manchester City on the road to start the season. Haaland with the brace, one of which, the first one was the tap-in at the post. He does a really good job to be there. It's a good run. It's a better assist, and it's a better overall sequence. But it's just really nice passes, really nice movement across the board from City. To have two of your new signings on the score sheet already. Yeah. To have, I think, the man that a lot of us thought would win the Golden Boot already off to a good start with 2 goals is probably not something Man City will be too bummed about. Phil Foden, not involved in this game, a player that I thought could be, but I think is still coming back from an injury. So maybe when we add him to the mix, they get even better. But certainly a very good performance from start to finish from Man City.
I thought Thierry Reinders, just to do a quick beat on him, I thought he was absolutely outstanding. Like, clearly the best player on the pitch, and to such an extent, I thought his performance was the best individual performance in the Premier League this weekend. I think it has to be up there as one of the all-time Premier League debuts for a new signing, because holy moly, there were periods in this game where he was just in complete control, and part of it was the authority that he had on the ball and how everything seemed to flow through him. But then some of the things he was doing on the ball as well, that his little jink through the tackle and scoop over the top for Oscar Bob for the first City goal is absolutely outrageous. Then he scores the second goal himself after making about a 50-yard run forwards, and he is absolutely what City needed last season, because he's got the technical ability to be a Pep midfielder, we saw that, but he also covers so much ground. He makes so many runs and plays with such speed. So yeah, I thought he was absolutely brilliant. I'm not taking my victory lap just yet, because I did it in our Patreon last week. I said he would be the signing of the season, but yeah, I feel pretty good about that right now. He was excellent in this game.
He was very good indeed. By all accounts, a very nice guy as well, and I have some experience of that. I worked with him a bit at Milan last season, and he was super nice. So very good indeed.
Lives in your brother's street.
He's a pawn servant for you. Must be.
He's at least pawn supervisor status.
Wow. Jet ski mechanic.
Gotcha. Good performance too from James Trafford in this one as well. I thought I like the Wolves tribute to Diogo Jota as well in this game too. Very nicely done indeed. So Man City looking pretty fearless as well. Tottenham with a 3-0 win over Burnley. Richarlison with the brace, including a lovely worldy overhead kick among them, and Brennan Johnson getting the other goal as well. Winning start for Thomas Frank. I mean, against a promoted team, it couldn't have gone much better for him though, I think. My favourite stat that I've just made up, Burnley conceding 16 goals last season. They've conceded 19% of that already after one game week. So, yeah, a lot of work for Burnley to do.
Yeah, obviously a good start for Spurs here. I think Burnley might be Southampton level bad this season, so let's not get carried away.
Graham, real quick, I saw a tweet, and I apologize, I can't remember who sent this, that said Burnley might be the first team in Premier League history to finish under the table this season. I thought that was pretty apt. Please continue.
They might be safer under the table on this basis, but yeah, Spurs were good. There were still some ragged moments from them, like in the first half when Christian Romero gave up the ball more than once with aimless passes into the middle. But Richarlison, you mentioned him there, Ryan. He was brilliant. You mentioned a statistic with Burnley, how many goals they've conceded. This is the weirdest statistic I've heard for a while. Richarlison has scored 16 goals in his last 23 starts for Spurs in the Premier League. That doesn't sound right, does it? But it's true. Along with, I also read that Ruben Amorim is the quickest manager in Premier League history to get to 15 defeats if you take promoted teams out of the equation, which is nuts. Those are two wild stats. But yeah, Richarlison, he was
one more wild than the other, I would say.
The Amorim one is wilder.
I'd say the Richarlison
one. I'd say the Richarlison one at this point.
Well, that just underlines how both are very wild. Richarlison, he was brilliant, and he was good against PSG in the Super Cup as well. Thomas Frank seems to really like him, and he'll continue to like him if he produces bicycle kicks like the one that he did to make it 2-0 in this game. And
are you giving it bicycle status? Not overhead kick?
I think it wasn't completely head over heels, was it? It was kind of side on a little bit. I think that's bicycle. You disagree?
Wait, I feel like bicycle is you've got to do the full bicycle motion to then hit it. I feel like what you're describing is an overhead kick.
Yeah, an overhead kick you have to be over your head. So it's like if you come
I think
at
of
it
a
side on
bicycle
and
as a higher degree of difficulty than an overhead kick, is I guess what I'm saying. And it sounds like you're giving it full billing as the most high degree of difficulty overhead kick, bicycle kick.
No, bicycle kick is easier than an overhead kick.
That's insanity. Graham is wrong. So even
Either
though
way,
Graham,
it was a good goal.
even though Graham is wrong about that, Graham was right about Spurs. Graham was right about Thomas Frank being.
Well, let's hold off.
A very good man.
Hold off. I'm not
going to.
lap yet.
I'm not going to hold off because, man, do you know what happened in the first minute of this game? They took the kickoff. They went back to the goalkeeper. They passed it out. They went long. They got a very, very good goal scoring opportunity inside the first minute that led to a corner, and then they had sustained pressure from there. That feels very Brentford from last season. So it feels like he's already got them
totally.
sort of buying into certain approaches and ideals. But even in the moments when Spurs were sloppy, and that is how they get the first goal, is a sloppy moment from Mohamed Kudus, but it's after they've counterpressed, stepped really high, won the ball back, and then it's a fortuitous bounce, but he gets on the end of it. He plays in a great cross for Charleston, adjusts his run. They get the goal. It just felt like there are aspects of what Thomas Frank wants this team to be, already very present in the way they're playing, and with some new signings included in there. And it feels to me like, yes, it's Burnley. You can only beat the team that's in front of you, and they beat them pretty resoundingly. But also, if you're Spurs and you want to show that you are back and you are going to have a stronger season, a 3-0 win is a good way to do that and has to give you some confidence. I hear you that you've got to then be realistic in the next few games. But I think everything about this game, if I'm a Spurs supporter, has me feeling really excited for the season to come.
There we go. Spurs off to a great start against Burnley. And speaking of relegation candidates, Sunderland 3, West Ham 0. Which one's the relegation candidate? Why not both? Sunderland made a winning start to their first Premier League campaign here since 2016-17. It's been a minute since they've been in the top division. That's great. A really good atmosphere as well up in the northeast. Graham, I think West Ham are in trubs. I think they might be. They need some kind of David Moyes to come back to paper over the cracks once again for them. But yeah,
he's gonna do double duty this season.
Maybe
commute between Everton and London.
I think West Ham. I was quite down on them, I think, before the season, and now my opinion has been reinforced.
What happened to Graham Potter? Can we talk
Chelsea.
about this? Sorry,
did he have one half good season and then he's dined out on it? Is it that?
That's kind of what it's starting to feel like, right? Like he just looked forlorn by the end of the game, but during the game he just looked like, yes, there are many problems to figure out, and I don't really know any of the solutions. More sleeping pods? I don't know.
The unfortunate thing for Potty Potts is that the West Ham squad is just terrible.
There is
like that. At the end of the day, like the
it's
team
better
is just
than this, though.
Okay,
being thumped 3-0 by Sunderland.
and please, somebody else take this game, because I did not watch this game, but I did preview West Ham, and we watched West Ham play last season, and not enough has happened over the summer. This was always going to be a bad team, whether or not they'd be this bad. Yeah, Greg, that's fair enough.
I mean, they just don't have an approach, right, under Graham Potter.
Yeah.
At Chelsea, at least you could say, well, you can see what he's trying to do. They just don't have the players to do it. They don't have the reps to do what he wants to do. I don't see any of that in the way that West Ham are playing. They are a nothing team right now. I will be shocked if Potty Potts, as Joe calls him, sees out the season at West Ham. I frankly think he is doomed. West Ham might be doomed on the basis of this performance. They might still stay up if the three promoted teams, I know they've just been thumped by one of them, but it's an opening game win. If the three promoted teams are bad, they might do what they did last season, because last season was bad as well. But on the Sunderland side of things, I thought this was just a brilliant occasion. Ryan, you said how long since they've been in the Premier League? How long since we've had anything positive to talk about Sunderland in the Premier League? Like, even when they were in the Premier League, they were this tragic team. And I caught all of this game because it was on. It was the Sky game of the day on Saturday night, when I just watch whatever's on Sky Sports 1 at that time of night. And I thought the performance got better as the match went on, because it was actually pretty even for about 60 minutes. Diouf has a shot cleared off the line for West Ham. They had a decent amount of control without really doing all that much with it. So they could have gone ahead, West Ham, in that moment. But then Sunderland, what they did for the second half was they pushed Adingra and Talby wider in the second half, created more space in the midfield, stretched the West Ham defence, and then all these gaps started to appear, and they were pushing runners into those areas. So Diarra from midfield was making runs, Mayenda was making runs, and Isidore, when he comes onto the pitch as well, was making runs. Of course, those two players score. The three players that scored were players that they had last season, which was somewhat peculiar given the number of signings that they've made. And then after this game, Sunderland they announced a deal for Nordi Mukiele. They've signed Ronaldo from Atletico Madrid, Granit Xhaka. So of the three promoted teams, I think I may have had Sunderland in the bottom three. I know it's one game. I kind of might. I know I shouldn't do this.
Did I not do a whole preview about this? I'm very confused. I said all of these things.
No, totally. But I just needed to see that you weren't lying to me, Taylor.
Unacceptable.
Now I've got a 3-0 win over a very bad West Ham team. But if I'm a Sunderland fan, I am obviously, stating the obvious here, feeling hugely encouraged by what happened this weekend.
So for those like Graham who might not have listened to the preview, what I will say is that the players who scored were the players that I expected to be very good for Sunderland and stick with this team. Ballard anchored that back line for them last year and felt like the one sort of center back that they were going to ride with this season. They've kind of strengthened and added depth and maybe added another starter alongside of him, but he has been kind of the rock for them. Mayenda, it felt like they were going to roll the dice as that striker because Isidore has been injured and is still coming back, but I think they kind of felt like those are the two number 9s we have right now. To go out and get somebody else is going to be a lot more money where there's other areas we want to invest, and obviously a lot of that investment has gone to that midfield, which I thought looked really strong and really good. Even before this was 3-0, I felt like that midfield was running the game really well and also kind of locking things down, but then still trying stuff. Xhaka has a few different really probing passes that I thought were good, and I thought Talby on the right wing, who is a new signing, comes in, looks really poised on the ball. I think I said youngster 45 times in my Sunderland preview, so I'll say he's a very talented youngster, Chemstine Talby. He's 20 years old from Morocco. I thought his first touch was exceptional. I thought Sunderland looked great. I don't think they're going down. I didn't think they were going down before I did after I did the preview. I don't think they're going down now. I think it's West Ham and Brentford and Burnley.
Yeah. And their approach, I feel much better about their quick transition approach over Leeds, who have been this like proactive front foot team. Translating that to the Premier League is going to be really difficult. And then Burnley, their defensive record's already in tatters after one game. So if Sunderland already have that grounding in being a transition team, and then just like upgrade the players who are doing that transitioning, then they might have a better chance than the other two.
There you go. Sunderland looking good. Job who? Also, a mad tifo of a knight stabbing a giant snake or a worm or something.
It's a worm.
Yeah, it's from a local story about a knight stabbing a giant worm or something. Yeah, it's a great story.
I read that on social media and was like, what?
I never heard it either. Yeah, but it looked cool.
We all agree that if that was a London tifo, Ryan would call it heroic and brave, right? But it's a northern tifo, so Ryan, it's a worm? I don't get it.
It was a soft southern worm that travelled too far north and got
Sean
its
Dyche wasn't happy.
Hey, Sean Dyche was literally dining out on that for weeks. Yeah. There we go. A few more games to look at. Brighton 1, Fulham 1, a 97th minute equaliser from Rodrigo for Fulham there. Cheeky in their very green-looking kits. Anyway. Fulham's teenage midfielder Josh King looking good in this one. One to watch, as noted in the previews. Villa 0. Go ahead, Taylor.
Ryan, I remember you from your preview making this point. Do we need to add another not that one? Is it Josh King not that one?
Correct.
Since we now have the two?
Yeah. That should be canon.
Josh King not that one. Cool.
Let's hope he doesn't sign for Al Hilal. Not that one.
Oh boy.
Villa 0, Newcastle 0. Once again, if only Newcastle had a star striker to break the deadlock in this one. If only I hadn't watched this game, because I could have been doing more constructive things. Anyway. Traveling. Yeah, could have been dog prepping. The travelling fans, after the final whistle, singing "There's only one greedy B word." Wonder who they were talking about for that.
Sandro Tonali, who left his boyhood club to sign for more money than Newcastle. No, is that another one we're talking about?
There's several, I suppose, when you look at it. But it seems quite hard for Newcastle fans to accept Isak back now, should that be the case. Nottingham Forest 3, Brentford 1. Pretty easy win for Forest here. Brentford struggling under Keith Andrews, in lest we forget his first management job ever in anything. Chris Wood with a brace here. Dan and Joy scoring after joining from Bologna. Chris Wood Ballon d'Or campaign starts.
It's not over.
Today.
How is it not over? How is the Chris Wood thing not over? You know that meme where the woman, like, her interest is kind of piqued by one thing and then she's brought down to it. That was me with Brentford looking really, really bad, but losing convincingly to a strong-looking Nottingham Forest team who I've predicted will have some sort of regression this season. So maybe right about one thing, but not the other.
It's okay, small sample size, as we say. We're in week 1, but very good stuff from Nottingham Forest. Finally, Chelsea 0, Palace 0. Eberechi Eze denied a very good free kick goal because of bureaucracy, because of the man taking it away, because of Mark Getty being within 1 metre of Chelsea's wall when the free kick was taken. A rarely, if never applied rule before. Apparently it's been a rule for a long time, Graham, but we just learned it was a rule because it's the first game of the season and the referees all got a briefing about it on Thursday.
It was actually repealed by IFAB in the 3 hours before the Atletico Madrid game later on Sunday night when Julian Alvarez smashed a free kick through a wall that had two Atletico Madrid players in it. Yeah, when I heard that was... Because initially I thought it had been given for the push by Getty on Caicedo. When I heard that it was for that rule, I thought it must be a new rule. Nope, it's been in place since 2019 and this is the first time a goal's ever been disallowed using it. So, confusing because we see this sort of thing all the time.
There you go. Wonderful. Well, we hope that does not continue going forward. We saw starts for Pedro Neto, for Jamie Gittins, for Rory Delap, the other Delap, coming on. But 3 shots on target for Chelsea and a £250 million attack in this one. There's still time. There
is still time. And also, look, ideally, they clearly, the best case scenario is that they just win this game. But Palace are so good at this. Like, we've just seen them draw with Liverpool in the Community Shield, beat them in penalties. They beat Man City in the FA Cup final. Like, they are a big team destroyer in the way that Chelsea found out in this game. And I predict that Palace will do this to a good number of big teams this season. So maybe not quite as disastrous as may seem on the face of things.
Yeah, I was predicting dire things for them this season. I feel less confident about that having watched this game and seeing how strong they looked. Resilient, I would say. I did appreciate Oliver Glasner basically saying, if I do anything with this team, it's my greatest managerial accomplishment. That still feels like maybe he's not loving the squad build so far, but we'll see how the season plays out.
That's the same energy as Mourinho saying the second place Man United finished with his greatest ever accomplishment.
Which he was right about.
Maybe not wrong.
Maybe he was right. So maybe Glasner's right. There we go. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, little look at La Liga, little look at the German Super Cup, little look at MLS. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to the weekend review. La Liga kicked off this past weekend as well. Mallorca with a 3-0 home defeat at the hands of Barcelona. Joe, something funny?
This game
just
is
Mallorca.
Funny. Finish wherever you're going to toss, but yeah, keep going.
Okay. Well, Joe, we had goals from Rafinha, from Ferran Torres, and Lamine Yamal with a very Lamine Yamal goal in this one. Marcus Rashford, Joe, also making his competitive debut. Mallorca with just the 2 players sent off in this one. Kind of wild, yeah.
The full 40 minutes.
It's crazy because the season just started in La Liga's opening weekend and Europe's really kind of opening weekend for major leagues. And we're done. Like the craziest game's already done and settled. So we can go ahead and just bookmark this one for our end of season awards. And this is going to be Toadies relevant later on this year, or I suppose next year. This game was wild. So I'm just going to run you through the key events of the game because tactically speaking, a win over a 9-man team is not something that I'm going to break down Barcelona's tape for. But I did watch this game and I loved it. It was great fun. Rafinha puts Barca up 1-0, 7th minute. Delightful ball from Lamine Yamal, wearing the number 10 now. Very pleased about it on his Instagram profile. Ferran Torres doubles the scoring 15 minutes later. Ferran Torres smashes the ball in. It's a great goal, but the goal happens while Mallorca's captain is lying on the ground with a head injury. Oh, you'd like to know, wouldn't you? Antonio, you would just love to know his name, wouldn't you? Antonio's laying on the ground after he's been hit in the head. Quite serious, right? By a laser shot from Lamine Yamal. And so Mallorca sort of stopped because they think that the play is going to be paused for head injury because this is serious stuff. Yamal absolutely just dusts this ball. And it's not. And Torres puts the ball in the back of the net. And while this happens, Manu Morlanes is booked for dissent. So for this whole incident because Mallorca aren't happy about it. And then Morlanes gets sent off for a second yellow for a sliding tackle like a few minutes later. So he gets sent off, dissent, and a tackle on Lamine Yamal, by the way. So there's some intent in there. I don't doubt it. And then Mallorca have another player sent off just a few minutes later for a high boot on Joan Garcia. And now they're down to 9 men. The game's basically over. You get Rashford making his debut in the second half. Lamine Yamal scores in the 94th minute to rub salt in the wound. This game was on something, and I had a really great time. It seems like everybody's okay, which didn't seem clear initially while Antonio was lying on the ground. But this game was truly bonkers. Barcelona have not lost their free spirit over the offseason. That makes me very happy.
Yeah, an unhinged game to start year 2 of Flicky Flacca feels on brand for Barcelona. And I think, as you say, Flicky Flacca, not mine, by the way. That is something that's been popularised in I think Spanish football over the last few months. Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Flicky Flacca, I like that. But yeah, a performance against a 9-man team makes it almost impossible to analyse the tactics of this Barcelona performance. All I'll say is Lamine Yamal, he's just the best player in the world at the moment. I know we had this discussion last season, and there are some other candidates, but I just don't see anyone on his level as both a goal threat and a creative threat for this Barcelona team. He's absolutely outstanding. So I'm just really looking forward to watching more of him this season, even if Barcelona continue to play him way too much for a 17-year-old and be way too reliant on him, but it's fun.
Yeah. He is so good that defenders give him the reverence of lots of space when he's winding up for a long-range shot, which is the ultimate sign of respect, I find. Yeah. Real Madrid don't get their campaign started until Tuesday, but Atletico Madrid, they very much started, Taylor. They had a 2-1 defeat at the hands of Espanyol.
Yes, they did.
We had some Johnny action here for some of it.
did.
What did we make of it?
I was confused by most of this game. I knew the scoreline heading in, and so knowing that Johnny was substituted at halftime, I assumed it was going to be a really lackluster performance from him. I will say he doesn't start great. For everything Graham said about the ball popping up in the Premier League, it seemed to pop up a lot when it was reliant on Johnny's first touch. He has some pretty shaky moments in the first 10 minutes or so where he is caught on the ball or he's just a little bit slow in his decision-making. But I think from that point on, he gains some confidence. He starts hitting diagonals. He starts doing a couple dribbles. He draws a few fouls in the attacking third. And then he also has some really nice tackles. And I thought it was overall a pretty good first half from him. He does pick up a yellow. Between that and Graham, maybe him coming back from injury is why he is substituted. Yeah. But he's not the only one substituted. And that seems to be the overarching narrative of this game, is that Simeone has spent a lot of money. Atleti have spent a lot of money again this window to create a team that still don't seem capable of playing much other than Simeone ball. And even in this game, they don't do that particularly well because they have the 1-0 lead at halftime. They end up losing 2-1. They don't really cross the halfway line in the second half. They're not really trying to be adventurous. They're not trying to kill the game off. They're not trying to get more goals. And it comes back to haunt them. But they've also sold Rodrigo de Paul, obviously, and that seems to have now been a point of even more criticism, that he was doing a lot in terms of kind of stabilizing the midfield, but also helping trigger counterattacks and trigger some attacking opportunities, and he's not there to do that. Does anyone else seem capable of doing it based on the performances this weekend? I'm not sure. Mauricio Pochettino in the house to watch this one. He has the Espanyol connection. He has the Johnny connection. I don't know how maybe enthralled he was by this game overall, though he must have been happy that Espanyol pull it back. So I think in the end it is a very Johnny Cardoso performance. Not very adventurous, not particularly risk-taking, but did a lot of what he needs to do well, pretty well. But Atleti, I think, have a lot of the same concerns that they've had at the start of a lot of recent seasons.
Yeah, Johnny was good. I think he came off at halftime. You referenced this, Taylor, but he's obviously had his injury over the summer, so I think Simeone wants to look after him. And I checked his numbers at halftime because I was watching this one live. He had at that point he'd had the third most touches of any player. He'd made the most recoveries, and that was probably the thing that stood out about him. He was, as one Spanish journalist put it. By the way, in Spain, the Spanish media seem to see a very different player to the one that we see for the USMNT. They are kind of raving about him. I guess it's easy from a narrative point of view if you take him off when you're winning and then the team ends up losing. But nonetheless, they were impressed with him. I saw one Spanish journalist say that he was Atleti's lung. And allowing the likes of Almada and Baena and Alvarez ahead of him to breathe, and I think that's a good descriptive term for what he does in a team. And when he comes off, Espanyol were allowed more of the game, and that might be a game state thing. We see that from Atleti all the time, but I think he'll very quickly come back into that team for the next game. Atleti, in terms of their overall performance, just very confusing, because I think for a lot of the first half they were good. They had security in their play. They were quick in possession. There was one sequence, Taylor, I don't know if you saw this in the first half, which ends with Alvarez pinging one off the post from inside the box, and it's like quick interchange play. There might be 4 Atleti players close to each other and they play through Espanyol, and that's the kind of evolution that Atleti need to make. But the fact that they allow themselves to get deeper and deeper in the second half, they end up losing this game. It already sets in this idea that Atleti have started this cycle all over again, which they've done multiple times over the last few seasons, where they try and reinvent themselves in the summer. They sign a bunch of players, but ultimately not players that are going to move the needle or get them any closer to Real Madrid or Barcelona. And so already it feels like Simeone is having to respond in the next few matches.
There we go. All right. Let's take a quick look at the German Super Cup. Bayern Munich with this 2-1 win over Stuttgart. Another trophy for Harry Kane, who opened the scoring in this one clinically despite being on the floor. Second goal from Luis Diaz for Bayern in his first official Bayern appearance. And Jamie Leveling, a consolation goal late on. It's a shame he should get the equalising goal, Jamie Leveling. Bayern have now won the season curtain raiser a record 11 times. Yay for them, I guess. One quick thing to do before we close out here, Joe Lowry. Joe Lowry's MLS Corner. Of course, we have our Major League Soccer update coming to the feed on Tuesday, but a quick look at what happened in the States over the weekend, including, but not limited to, Leo Messi doing some goals against the Galaxy, Joe.
Yeah, Messi came back for his first game since early August when he hurt his hamstring in Leagues Cup. Played the second half of Inter Miami's 3-1 win over the LA Galaxy. Had an absurd assist and had an absurd goal. Lionel Messi is still the best player in MLS. He should win MVP this year. He will win MVP this year. I wrote this for Backheeled in the Winners and Losers column that I do every weekend. And I wrote that there was a moment when Son Heung-min signs for LAFC that I thought to myself, man, I might rather have Son on my team at 33 than Messi on my team at 38. No, I'm an idiot. So wrong. I repent publicly of that. Messi is still changing games. A lot of really fun games of the weekend. Son had an assist and played the full game for LAFC in their win over New England. We'll talk more about him tomorrow, I'd have to imagine. Charlotte FC got let off multiple times by referee decisions, and a 1-win win over Real Salt Lake. That one's for you, Ryan.
6 in a row, baby.
Yeah, there it is. Evander made his return to Portland, which we will absolutely be talking about and has already been talked about in the Discord. A very, very spicy game there. We've got a new leader in the Shield race. I'm just whetting your appetite for tomorrow. Thomas Muller made his debut, had a delightful goal that was chalked off for offside unjustly because that was too cool to be disallowed rule should have applied there. I cannot believe that it didn't. It was the right call. It was offside earlier in the sequence. But Thomas Muller made his debut. I think he did a lot of good stuff. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But a really, really fun weekend of MLS stuff, and I'm excited to dig into it.
Spiritually onside, I think
very
is
much
what
so.
they call that.
Very much so.
I don't know if anyone saw the little video clip of Muller arriving. It was played at BC Place, right, in Vancouver.
Yes.
That dude's just, he doesn't need to do anything. He's just funny. Just give him a sitcom. Like,
Did he gallop? What did he do?
No, he didn't gallop. They'll keep that for the next game. Yeah, I don't think his stables have made it over to Canada yet.
Oh,
so
that's a shame. That's a shame. I did see the quote where he said words to the effect of, "This is the first flight I've taken without Memo Neuer for 20 years." Which is like quite a salient thing to say, I suppose. But also I was thinking, did he come on your family holidays with you? Like,
Neuer's like skiing every single year. No beach holidays.
I presume he meant in a professional capacity. There we go. Anyway, that is.
I hope it is the case that they are always flight buddies.
Yeah. Have you got your emotional support Manuel Neuer with you?
Exactly.
I just imagine they go to like stay in a nice villa in the Alps somewhere, and Manuel Neuer is like their chef, and he wears a little apron and he cooks for the family. That would be nice, wouldn't it? There we go. All right, that is the weekend review. Thank you very much, indeed, listener, for joining us for this one. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show is where you'll find our bonus content, including Weekend Review Extra. We're going to have a look at Liga. Of course we are. Oli Giroud doing stuff in Liga. And much more. Join us on the bonus feed there. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. But for now, excuse me, Taylor Rocco, thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure, my friend. Graham, a question for you. Does your emotional support Neuer, does it come like flying out of its container to like protect you at all costs? It comes 30 yards away from you just to make sure no one's coming near you?
It's energetic, and at least once a day if you're sure it's going to cost you your life.
There we go. Graham Rutherford, thank you very much indeed. If your emotional support Neuer did a bicycle kick or an overhead kick, would you argue with Taylor about it for 3 minutes about what it was?
And still be wrong?
I guess.
Cool. Right.
That was only 3
Thank you, Ryan
minutes.
Bailey.
Oh, man.
Felt like a
Joe
lot.
Lowry, thank you very much, sir. A pleasure as always.
Yeah, I like my emotional support Neuer to play in midfield, frankly. I've always thought he could do it. I think if you put him in the second Bundesliga, he could do it with aplomb.
Yeah, there we go. We all need an ESN in our lives. Let's get the paperwork in. Listener, thank you very much for joining us on this episode. We'll be back on the feed very shortly. But for now, bye.